Question, County Council, do we have anything to report from closed session?
Chair, there is no reportable action from closed session. However, there are additional items to complete from your closed session agenda.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we will complete those after the regular agenda. This time we have the invocation and flag salute. Pastor Derek Pearl, is he here? The pastor? Let's stand then and I will do the invocation. And I'll ask Chief Childers if he'd lead us in the flag salute after I finish the. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity together as community members, friends, and leaders. We ask your wisdom in all our deliberations. We ask that you would impart to us as a community the things we stand in need of from day to day. We thank you for the rains that we've had, for the crops that we can grow and provide for our nation. We're thankful for the hands that work diligently in our community to provide for their families and to make this a great place to live, work. We thank you for all of your blessings, and we're mindful of where they come from. Bless our nation. Watch over those young men and women who stand on foreign fields of battle, watching, protecting. What I ask for them, I ask also for all of our first responders, that you protect them, watch over them, bless them, that they may do their jobs with joy, encumbered. We ask these blessings and favors in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Chief. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, liberty and for all. Public comment.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board and not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take any action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Okay. Anyone to address this board under public comment? You have 1, 2. While they're coming forward, I'm going to address the public on something I received in the mail today. I want to congratulate Sheriff Tyson Pogue and our Madera County Sheriff's Office in general on the state inspection report that I received in the mail. It was a spontaneous inspection, and they passed with flying colors in every area. So congratulations on a clean bill of health from a spontaneous inspection. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Give us your name.
Good morning. My name is Valjean Jury. I'm glad to meet you, and Supervisor Blomhoff as well, my first time. I am standing here. This is probably a lot for me, but if you look through the next door site, you see that there are a lot of people in the Ranchos area complaining about the speeding on their streets. I have huge trucks that go by, huge belly dumps and whatever and I swear they're going 70 miles an hour. And that's not to mention the vehicles I have to go across the street to get my mail. I don't see very well. I don't hear very well. I've been to the post office to ask them to move my mailbox over on my side of the street. They were very unsympathetic. And I know that we have citizens on patrol. I know that the police are very busy. I know the speed limit on my street is probably 55 miles an hour because we're rural country. But there has to be something done. And a lot of the people in the Ranchos area are complaining about the same thing. Their animals are being killed. I met one gentleman who got hit getting his mail and he was in a wheelchair, missing his legs. This was some time ago. But I don't know if we can get speed bumps, if we can get the strips that go across and say how many people are driving and how fast they're going. I don't think that speed limit signs are going to do a whole lot. We need something more. And I know that the police aren't, they've got a lot of other things to look at. So this isn't just for me. It's for a lot of other people too. Maybe put out a survey and have people mail it in, find out what's going on, but something has to be done. That's my number one worry. And I don't know if you have anything to do with oversight on the Postal Service.
No.
And I have talked to the police department about this and I just brushed off. The other thing that's completely off is that at one time, and maybe still, that Madera County or Madera and Fresno had gone together to do Avenue 9 for transportation off of 41 to the freeway. And I haven't heard anything about that lately. I don't know if it's still ongoing. I've driven Avenue 9 and haven't seen anything that looks like that's changed either. But that's mainly my concerns. I don't know. What I'm looking for from you or anybody here is, who should I go to about the speed limits on the rural country streets or something to be done? What
Yeah.
would be my best option?
We'll put in a request to the Highway Patrol, who is actually in charge of that kind
Highway
of,
Patrol?
yes, the Highway Patrol. And I want you to talk to Matt Treber. He's going to put his hand up back there in the back.
Raise
and-
your hand.
And
Oh,
we
okay.
can find out your location and we'll work with you on what could be able to be done for you in that region.
I don't even have a postal service nearby now that I can go and have a post office box.
Mm.
They shut it down. And I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to be driving for many more years. My
Right.
license is going to be up in December and I don't know if I'll get a new license or not. So
Yeah.
that's me.
The
But I
post
know,
office is a federal matter though.
yeah, but I appreciate, and I knew that when I came here.
No
Yeah,
worries, no worries.
yeah.
Well, we'll be happy to help you and you meet with Matt back there and
You
let him
bet.
know your.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate
And
it.
ma'am, I believe Clerk Scrivener already got your contact information.
Beg your pardon?
I believe Clerk Scrivener already got your contact information. Is that
The
correct?
clerk
Did
Yeah.
Karen, did she get your contact information?
or Matt can get it from you.
We'll
Yeah,
get
I'll
it.
Talk to him.
We'll follow up with you.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Sue O'Connor and I'm from Oakhurst. We all know about the tragedies of the Camp Fire and the Lahaina fire, and the factors included high fuel loads, high winds, evacuation routes were clogged, overwhelmed emergency responders, and a town that burned to the ground. Eastern Madera County similarities are mono winds, high fuel loads from tree mortality, water shortages, outdated and insufficient roads, insufficient number of manned fire stations per mile per capita. We are concerned about the high and very high risk in the Oakhurst and Eastern Madera County communities. We need alternative routes to escape should a similar catastrophic fire occur here. And we need you to prioritize this with transportation funds. We need the BOS to stop approving additional development in these high fire risk zones without CEQA environmental impact reports. As BOS, you are responsible to know these things. Development must not exceed the threshold of economic significance, must have fire department access with simultaneous egress, BOS must determine that economic benefits have overriding considerations when including the deficiencies of the fire department. Is there a staffed fire department within 5 miles of a proposed development? Is there internal development impact report? These are things you need to know. Your job is to ensure that for any type of emergency, our local fire department will be able to reach our sites quickly and safely in any conditions, have room to operate their equipment, and have access to enough fire protection water to successfully fight a fire on the property. In many areas of Madera County, existing roads and water supplies are not adequate or are non-existent, and they must be provided for or improved by any developing party. According to the information from the Madera Community Wildfire Protection Plan, known factors contributing to the wildfire risk in Madera County include narrow and often one-lane or dead-end roads complicating evacuation and emergency response, as well as the many subdivisions that have only one means of ingress and egress. Increasing population density leading to more ignitions. Most roads are 2 lanes, narrow, curvy roads that, because of the escalating population, serve more vehicles than they were originally designed for. Water. Many of these systems are marginal because they are old and serve more people than originally designed for. These are off reports you already have. Insurance. Based on ISO criteria, the more rural areas that are within a certain distance of a fire department tend to have a rural class of 9 or 10 rating. That pretty much describes our mountain communities. We need you to stop ministerial approvals of development projects that will increase traffic to our communities and within our neighborhoods, especially until our evacuation routes have been sufficiently improved. Our community members should not have to file lawsuits in order to force the county to do EIR studies. We need a fire marshal that is a direct report to the board to ensure
Can you wrap
proper
it up?
checks and balances. I'm just about done.
Thank you. Thank you.
To ensure proper checks and balances related to development recommendations. And we need transportation funds to be prioritized for evacuation route and road improvements. If you are not losing sleep over this, then you are not sufficiently informed. Please prioritize our evacuation needs.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
And Sue, I'll let you know that the last iteration of Measure T did include funding for evacuation routes. And I know there were some concerns about, there no expiration date there. But I think the next iteration of that, we will not have that expiration date. But it's my hope we will have that evacuation route component still built into the measure, which guarantees funding for the mountain communities on evacuation. I just want to make sure.
Now, let's not get into back and forth here. You can talk to him later on, okay? Go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman and Board of Supervisors. I'm Mai Vang, your Executive Director of the Workforce Development Board of Madera County. September is Workforce Development Month, and in honor of the celebration, I wanted to share with the board our program impact report for program year 2022-23. This report highlights the total number of services provided, the number of participants enrolled, investments made to our job seekers, employer savings, and business services provided. We do have a significant amount of training dollars that are allocated for this current program year and are working to provide targeted outreach efforts to increase access. So please help us share the word, share with your constituents, refer them over to the Workforce Assistance Center. They can ask to speak to a specialist of the day.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions, but this is very good information. Thank you.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Morning, everybody.
We're Ralph.
Ralph Pistoresi, Madera. I kind of want to give you an agricultural update because you guys make decisions that affect agriculture, and agriculture's health is very important in how the county goes. Well, agriculture's having a difficult time right now. Price of almonds is $1 to $1 something. It's really dropped. Price of pistachios has dropped to about $1 a pound. grapes, they don't even need them for the most part. A lot of them have been damaged. The price of hay is down. The price of corn is down. Dairies are in big trouble. I know a dairy in Tulare that has like 5 dairies, 25,000 cattle each, losing $1 million a day. The cattle are being shipped off for slaughter because they can't afford to feed them and take care of them. So this is just the price of diesel is like, we bought some the other day, $4.63 a gallon. That's like $35,000 a load. So farming is getting expensive. Wages are getting expensive. Restrictions on every level are getting more severe. It's getting to be a really difficult occupation. It's really tough. Apart from that, recently, there was a realtor who was advertising on KMJ. I don't know if you got to hear his advertisement. He was priding himself in saying that he saved an investor from investing in Madera because he wasn't a very knowing investor. And he was going to, although the price of land in Madera dropped and he wanted to buy in Madera, he talked him out of it because it says Madera has a lot of serious water issues. All right. So the price and the demand for farmland in Madera has plummeted. As a matter of fact, it's non-existent. And a lot of this can be attributed to some of the decisions that this board made last year, not the new board, but the older board. All right. Because it's being viewed as an area you want to stay away from because there's no telling what different restriction, law, or regulation will be placed on them. Apart from that, the fees. We have a $100 an acre over pumping fee. It's supposed to go up to $500 an acre in a certain number of years. I think you need to really closely examine all of that before it gets any worse. Right now, the real estate market in Madera is dead, absolutely dead. I see my time is up.
That's okay.
But on the consent calendar, we're going to want to look at some, but I'll do that later.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other comments? Any public comment online?
No comments online.
Okay, let's move to the consent calendar. Are there any items for any special consideration to be removed?
Yes, Chair. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chair, just a reminder that item K was asked to be not considered as part of this consent calendar. Item K is in kangaroo. Sorry, Supervisor
5K.
McCauley.
5K.
Yes.
Okay, so we're 5K will be removed and taken at another time, apparently. No items to be.
Chair, I had a
discussed.
couple questions
Go ahead.
on items R and AC. Jessica, are you for R? So, yeah, I always like it when Fresno is going to be sending us a check. That's great to start out, but just had some questions as far as the funding. So what exactly is that for emergency shelter services? Is that to provide housing? So is the expectation that we would be contracting out with hotels or vacation rentals for that emergency housing component, and then county staff will provide the wraparound services?
Yeah, so good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration. So this grant is part of a grant that the FMCOC, the Fresno Madera Continuum of Care, received through the HAP, which is HAP is the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention. So FMCOC as a continuum applied for HAP funding. And because Madera County is part of the FMCOC, we will be receiving part of that funding, which is the $600,000. So with that grant, it will be received as a one-time lump sum payment. And then Madera County will be contracting out with the rescue mission has been doing some of this work already, and CAPMC has been doing some of the administrative work as far as the management, the case management piece of it. So at a later time, we will come back to your board with contracts for those items with those CBOs, community-based organizations, to move forward with that. But as I mentioned, the work has already begun because of course we didn't want to delay any of this. There was a lot of administrative and back-end stuff for the to have the agreement in place, but a lot of it is already being done.
Perfect. Thank you.
I know that the rescue missions building housing on that particular parcel there next to them. And is some of this going to go toward that?
The triage center that I believe our general services department is working on. So I don't believe that this grant is specifically going to be for that. It's going to be for some apartments that the rescue mission already has in place.
Good.
So yeah.
Good. I know they could use some rehab on some of those as well. They talked to me a few years back about that, and I went in and examined some of the things. Maybe that can enable them on that.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
And
Hi,
another
Sarah.
item? Yeah, go ahead.
AC. So on this one, I just had some questions in regards to, again, kind of implementation about the allowable nutrition and education and obesity prevention activities. I'm assuming we're measuring this annually through our CHA, right? But how are we actually implementing these services? Is it through county staff? Are we doing contracts with CBOs, a combination thereof, or how's that working?
Sarah Boss, Public Health Director. It's primarily through staffing, although we definitely work with partners. So we work on primarily policy systems and environmental change, although it's paired with nutrition and physical activity education. And we're doing that with partnerships through parks and recreation, school sites, retail stores, food banks, food pantries. And so there's a whole host of activities, but the funding is largely supporting staff and the support of those activities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I made a mistake on that. It should have been on a general calendar because of the dollar amount. We have kind of an internal policy that anything like that on the general discussion. So my bad. Not a routine item when you're talking about $1 million.
Yes, it is a high dollar amount and it's for a 3-year grant. So when you look at the annual amount, it's something that's far more reasonable, but the state likes to do a 3-year contract term with this particular funding source because it is something that is a long-standing grant that renews every 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Any more items for questions on consent calendar before I take it up? Go ahead, Letty.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
I was
oh,
going
I'm
to make
sorry.
a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Ralph Pistoresi again. I'd like to have item AQ and AR, if it's possible, to be taken off the consent calendar for discussion.
AQ and AR.
Yeah.
And on that same note of dollar amount, I believe this is a $750,000 contract extension.
I have no problem with that. So we'll discuss those items separately. And do I have any other comment on the consent calendar? If not, we'll go ahead with a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the consent, removing item K for a later date and pulling items AQ and AR.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made in second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes,
Vote passes 4-0.
we'll take up item AQ. See, that would be the Matt, you got somebody to, oh, here we go. Yes, Jeannie. Thank you.
Good morning. Jeannie Hobbin, Deputy Director, Water and Natural Resources. I don't know what the question is.
Just quick overview of what it
Quick
is.
overview. This is actually both of them are contracts. I mean, I can go over both at the same time. Both were amendments on contracts for David Engineering. The first is, I think that's AQ, is on the Madera joint GSP revisions. And we are Okay, taking one at a time. AQ, thank you. And it's the revision of the Madera Joint GSP. It has already gone in. In fact, it's gone in a couple times, but it's already gone in. The reason why we're having to extend the contract is because one of the partners did not sign in the last minute, the last day, the last everything. And so we ended up, we have to kind of have the same
Process.
consultants with us throughout the process. And so if DWR comes back with any other questions, or we have to have these continued meetings, things like that. So we did have to extend, and that's all it is. It's not a dollar extension, although the dollars are paid for by grant. And it's Prop 68 grant. And so it's not a dollar extension, it's just a time extension because we need to hold on to them for this process.
Okay, and AR,
And AR, same thing. It is extension of time, not dollars. Dollars are paid for by a grant. The reason why this is being extended is because the project itself keeps growing. It's now 4 projects. We have Madera Chowchilla 1 and Madera Chowchilla 2. It's first started with studies, then into projects, and now we're consulting with the farmers and working on all 4 projects. So it's an extension of time, same contract, no
Great.
dollars, and dollars are from a grant.
thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm going to take those items, AQ and AR, out to the public. I'll take AQ first. Questions or comments?
Members of the board. You know, Davis Engineering might be a great firm, okay? Not a problem. And I understand that you said this is all being paid for with grant money. That's good too, because that means we don't have to pay. All right. The thing is, what concerns me is, I understand that the different GSAs in the subbase, Madera subbase, are getting together and trying to resolve certain issues, pick certain directions. And I'm just concerned why, first of all, they didn't sign like they were supposed to. But the other thing is, why are we extending these contracts so far into the future? I mean, if they're contracted to do the work a year at a time, why, for example, do we want to extend a contract to the year 2027? That's a long ways off. A lot can change from then. And I think you need to have some flexibility. And when these different GSAs get together, and they've got a ways to come together, because the state is going to want some coordinated effort for the subbasin, and they don't have it yet. And this engineering work might change. I just think that before you make decisions, you need to know the amount of money, the work that was performed, and how far have we gotten on what we've done so far? How much money have we spent, and where have we gotten? Because I think with the state, we haven't gotten anywhere. We're back at square one almost. So that's my concern as a farmer and as a businessman. You just don't, make real long contracts. Let's see some actual accomplishment in what we're trying to attain. And maybe the engineering firm can give some kind of a update on what's going on to the board. Are we having major obstacles? Are we getting there? Are we changing course? These are things you need to know.
Yeah, I think AQ is a 1-year.
One year at a time is okay.
Yeah, it's a 1-year extension. So that's not
But
an
is this,
issue for you. It's the other one that's 2027. And I think that deals with the nature of what studies are.
yeah,
It's a longer term study. It's a longer term circumstance. Groundwater changes, and it involves a time lapse.
my thinking is this: we're going to do studies on groundwater recharge. What study do we need to do? We need to get the water in the ground. Okay.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay. That means That means that what needs to accomplish is that our Natural Resources Board has to make inroads with the state so that when we have floodwaters like we may have them again this year, that they're not going to be a waste of time, months in waiting, us pumping water probably illegally because it's common sense. That's where we need to start. We don't need to measure. We need to put water in the ground,
We've been trying to do that too.
but we got to do it.
We
because-
were the impetus, our staff was the impetus for the governor's executive order. I mean, you wouldn't have had that order
No,
without.
that's not
Madera
true,
County.
Dave.
Oh,
Let me-
yes, it is.
Dave, that happened because because our coalition, through educating Metropolitan Water District, that guy made a speech because they knew that the water was running to the ocean. 2 days after that guy, the head of Metropolitan, made the speech, 2 days, 48 hours afterwards, the governor signed the executive order because there's 20 million votes over there.
Well, for 2 weeks before that, our staff was engaged with the governor's office, gave them the language that they used on the order. So I know our staff. had-
Well, then congratulations.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
happy.
it's a big deal.
Okay, but the other guy,
He
Tilted
probably,
the
he's probably
balance.
right too, but he was piggybacking off of
20
us.
million votes.
Yeah,
All right.
yep. Thank you. Okay, so any further comment on AQ? Thank you for your comment, by the way.
Chair,
Uh,
can I just jump in
yes.
real quick? I think I really don't like the word study. I mean, it's not just because I was a bad studier in college, but it's more because I think it's a misinterpreted word. You know, when study includes design and engineering and we're getting, a recharge basin, ready for implementation, and that's not just a study, right? So I think we got to stop using this word around the county because I hear the same thing on other projects we're doing.
Right.
And when we get these contracts to do this work, it's a great thing because we're taking that first step forward so we can go start putting holes in the ground. So that way we can start recharging. That's what I think, the second item is about. But obviously with AQ, there's some other issues going there, some impediments, which we are getting updates on. I think we had quite a few closed session items in regards to some of those impediments. So
Yeah.
with that, I'll
I agree. It's the biology, the physics, the trigonometry and the nuts and bolts of putting a project together that makes it work. So got to happen. I do it when I build a house, same thing. You plan before construction. So this is virtually the same thing. Exactly. I'll hear a motion.
move to approve.
Motion made to approve.
Second?
Motion made in second. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Warmhoff,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers,
Yes.
vote passes 4-0.
On AR, is there any discussion from the public on AR? Hearing none online?
No comments online.
Move to approve?
Made in second. Let's vote.
Supervisor Warmhoff,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Item 6A.
Item 6A, Board of Supervisors Department, presentation of a proclamation recognizing September 15th through October 15th, 2023 is National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Friday, the fifth, I think it's the Friday, marks the beginning of National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is from September 15th to October the 15th. And during that month, we celebrate the history, culture, and cultures of citizens whose ancestors came from Mexico, the Caribbean, Spain, Central and South America. Today, we have invited Adriana Gonzalez Carrillo and Jason Castro Olivares here from the Mexican consulate and the Salvadorian consulate to receive the proclamations. The Hispanic Latino population make up nearly 60% of Madera County's residents and nearly 40% of California's population. Both consulates have worked beyond in providing accessible services to our communities. So I'd like to thank them for what they do and invite them up to say a few words before we present the proclamation.
Good morning, everyone. The Consulate of Mexico appreciates Madras County Board of Supervisors for the proclamation they have approved to celebrate the 213th anniversary of the independence of Mexico and the 200 years of diplomatic relations between Mexico and the United States. The bridges of friendship between both countries are becoming stronger and more intense. The County of Madera is an excellent example of those ties we have through the Mexican communities, mainly Oaxacan, living in this great place. It's an honor for the Consulate of Mexico in Fresno to receive this proclamation as a symbol of friendship between our people, the Mexican and the American people at the great County of Madera. For 92 years, the Consulate in Fresno had witnessed the empowerment of the Mexican and Mexican-American community in the Central Valley of California, and will remain a faithful ally for the prosperity of the County of Madera. Que viva México, que viva Madera.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Castro. I'm the Consul General for the Salvadoran Consulate in Fresno. We recently opened the consulate last year, June last year. I wasn't here at the time, but I guess some of you went to the opening day. So we were opening this consulate because of the increase of the population, the Salvadoran population in the Central Valley. As you may know, 1/3 of the population, the Salvadoran population, are living in the US, especially in California. So in the last 10 years, there has been an increase in Salvadoran population in the Central Valley. So they are a key component for the work in the Central Valley. So I'm very happy to see that you're recognizing the Salvadoran community, also the Hispanic community, and recognizing the Independence Day, the Heritage Day for the Hispanic population here. So, well, as you may know, also the U.S. is our biggest ally. As I was saying, 1/3 of the people are living here. So for us, opening a consulate, being partnered with the counties, being partnered with the cities, is very important for us as a Salvadoran government. So thank you again for this recognition, and we will be happy to continue working with you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to add that there's several community events going on during this time, and our office will be sharing those activities.
Great. Let's get a picture with
Mr. Chair, I forgot to mention that our office provided some pastries and coffee in the back. So if anyone would like to indulge,
Hey,
they're more than welcome.
I didn't mention that either, so I'm glad you did. Some great traditional pastries, I understand.
Yes.
So very good. If you want a treat, go back there in the back and we'll avail ourselves of that certainly later on. Okay, item 6B.
6B, Behavioral Health Services Department, presentation of a proclamation naming September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Month and the day of September 10th, 2023 as or to be declared as World Suicide Prevention Day.
Good morning, Connie Moreno Praz. I'm your Director of Behavioral Health here in Madera County. Chairman Rogers, members of the board, I really want to thank you for allowing us to bring this proclamation forward. We've kept you abreast of the national movement towards having zero suicides and promoting 988 as the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And then we have our local access and crisis number as well, 559-673-3508. I'm very honored to have our staff here. You have the proclamation. Thank you so much. We do have, we want you to hear the voice of a contractor, former employee of ours, Sylvia Romero. And then we have a youth that will speak on this item. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Members of the board, my name is Sylvia Romero, Program Manager for Youth Empowerment Program, and I'd like to present some of our staff to introduce one of our youth speakers.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Zainab Kasser. I go by Z. And this is Courtney. I'm Courtney Williams, one of the mental health specialists. Well, as the mental health specialist, we've both been able to work with Layla Williamson, who's going to present to you just a little bit of her little story. And just to honor Suicide Awareness, Suicide Prevention Month. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Layla.
Hello, everyone. My name is Layla Williamson, and I'm here to give you my speech that I have wrote by myself because I want all of you to know that I have been through so much, and it's not just me. There's a lot of different other people too. And I want you all to know that depression is no joke because mental health matters. At the age of 5, a very terrible thing had happened to me. And then at the age of 11, and then just a few months ago, it happened again. And that is why I am the way I am, because I have been majorly disrespected. And these reasons led me to cut myself and just self-harm. And I do all of these things because of everything I have been through. I know that life is not easy and it won't keep getting easy. And I used to think that it was going to keep getting better each day. And each day I felt numb and eventually started to give up. But this last time that the terrible thing happened, I got back on my feet because there are monsters in this world and will do everything in their power to destroy you, but you can't let them. Just know he didn't destroy me. So just know, don't let nobody ever knock you down or destroy you because you were strong, and please no self-harm. Get advice or find coping skills. Usually when you are sad and depressed, you feel alone. But I promise you, you're not going, because I promise you're not, because you have someone in this world who will always be right there doing what's best for you, even though sometimes it may feel they are doing what's not best for you. But it's not that, because that person cares and loves you. And I found my person, who is my mom. So I love you and everyone else who hasn't given up on me. And that's why I'm on my way to recovery now. Thank you.
Congratulations. Takes great courage to get up and speak before a group and tell us your story. And thank you for that. And I just hope you realize how valuable you are to life, to people around you. And this world would not be the same without people like you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
This is the second time I've heard Layla speak in public. She's a phenomenal speaker. She has an incredible story to share, but more importantly, she just has so much light that you have such a bright future. You have a lot of people who are rooting for you and who are helping you. Carla and I just adore you. So thank you for letting us work with you, and keep doing what you're doing. Okay, stay on that right path.
Keep up the good job.
Our youth are suffering. There's a lot of suicide ideation, a lot of bullying going on, and our kids are hurting post-COVID and even without COVID. So we need to be out there. I want to thank our contractor. Thank you, Sylvia, for having our young person speak. Just very few highlights on some activities.
Yes, thank you, Chairman and board members. I want to thank Layla for giving her story. She is a shining light. And I want to thank our contractors and our staff for devoting their time and being extremely passionate and compassionate to serve in this community, especially in the circumstances that we're facing. As we mentioned, this proclamation not only serves for us a great deal of efforts to be able to provide community-based services, not only to our youth, but also to our aging adults, because suicide is largely affecting them as well. For this month, we have a series of different activities we want to take part. They are posted on our social media and website. We are holding a 4-part workshop series in the month of September. We also have activities in Eastern Madera County where we're providing prevention workshops of hope, where we provide resources to committee members and information about the 98 websites and access to crisis calls or 24-hour assistance. At our 7th Street office, every Thursday in the month of September from 5:30 to 6:30, we have informative workshops going on. They're both in English and in Spanish. This Thursday, we're actually doing a loteria game and respect and honor Hispanic Heritage Month, just to get the community involved and make it a fun way to learn about suicide prevention and what to look out for. And then on the 28th of September, we're going to have a resource panel with a lot of different agencies that serve. Some of our contractors will be there to ask and answer any questions. And of course, we cannot force enough the school-based activities. We are pretty much at 22 schools this month of September throughout Madera County during the lunch and learn lessons, giving them information about local resources and how they can access any services in our department. At the end of the month, we're actually hitting our native tribes by providing them a resource fair up in the mountain area as well. So we welcome you to attend these events. They are posted on our site, and we'll give you some more information in some of the handouts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'd like to at this time get a photograph with everybody and want this young lady to come up to. Thank you for bringing attention to that very serious issue in our society. Every life is important. 6C.
6C, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 23-014 in the amount of $5 million derived from MCH Fund State Other to contributions to other agencies for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joel Bugay, County Administrative Office. The item before you is to appropriate and set in a separate special revenue fund, the $5 million that the state of California has approved as a direct appropriation from the state general fund for the purposes of supporting costs or activities that relate to the reopening of Madera Community Hospital. Staff is available for any questions you may have on this item.
Okay, any questions for Joel?
I just, quick
ahead,
question,
Brian.
going back to our last meeting, spent some money to cover the burn rate. So are we still going to be able to recoup that with this fund?
Yes, Supervisor. So we are actually returning on the 19th with an update in regards to the burn rate assistance that's being provided. And one of the funding sources that will be considered in that forthcoming item will be the AB 179 budget funds, which is the $5 million.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very much. Any questions from the public? Any comment from the public? Anyone online?
None online.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve.
Motion made.
I'll second.
Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chairman Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
6D.
6D, County Administration Department, discussion and consider.
That's-
I'm
Yes,
so sorry.
6D was pulled at the 9
Oh,
o'clock.
I'm sorry.
call,
Yeah.
and should return at the meeting on the 19th.
Thank you for reminding me. I
And the
had
same-
that circled for that.
Same, 6F was also pulled for a future meeting.
Right.
So that leaves us 6E.
6E.
6E, Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution appointing Amy Toller as Madera County Interim Director of Animal Services effective August 22nd, 2023.
Any questions on this item? Any comment from the public? You're back to the board. What's your?
I just have a quick comment real
Yeah.
quick, Chair, if I may, and I think Amy's been working out a classification for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And, we've had a couple ongoing concerns, I'll call them, up in the mountain communities in Madera with some folks and their animals. And I'll say Amy's done a fantastic job working those 2 cases, taking some huge steps forward with them, which brings me some great confidence in the work she's doing. So I would like to make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
6G.
6G Probation Department, introduction to adopt an ordinance amending section 3.33.020A of the Madera County Code, implementing the provision of AB 134 by repealing certain fees for criminal justice collection and cost recovery services, waive the first reading and set the second reading for October 3rd, 2023.
Chief.
Good morning, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, Chris Childers, Chief Probation Officer, and with me is Sharon Sampolesi, our Revenue Services Manager. I'm here before the board to propose this amendment to the ordinance that's before you. The state has repealed some additional criminal justice fees, and those justice fees are enumerated within the packet you had before you. Those, just to let you know, the code sections that are being repealed and the collection of those fees relate to defendants who successfully complete probation or a form of diversion or a form of supervision. And upon that completion, they can go to the court and the court can make a judicial decision. And this is eliminating the fee that those defendants would.
Thank you.
Free to answer any questions.
Any questions? Go out to the public. Is any comment from the public on this item? Online. I'll bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move to waive the first reading and set the second reading for October the 3rd.
Made.
Second.
Let's vote.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you. 6H.
6H, Sheriff Coroner's Office, 2022 Fork Fire Debris Removal. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution awarding a contract in the amount of $969,000, $969,550 to Anvil Builders, Inc. for the 2022 Fork Fire Debris Removal Contract and overruling all bid protests. Discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Anvil Builders, Inc. in the amount of $969,550 to perform disaster debris and hazard tree removal services on parcels affected by the 2022 Fork Fire, implementing the consolidated debris removal program for a term ending August 30th, 2024, and authorize the chairman to sign.
And Chair, if I can, before the
ahead.
presentation gets started, there was also a correspondence where the constituent asset, the correspondent, it's added to the record for this particular item. It was delivered to members of the board yesterday morning and is distributed here for the board and available for the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Joseph Wilder with the Sheriff's Office. I'm the sergeant assigned to the Office of Emergency Services. This contract and bid protest that's before you today is a culmination of almost a year's worth of work between myself and Deputy Director Mark from Environmental Health. We were very happy to move this forward and start getting the properties cleaned up. The bid protest from another contractor was the second lowest bidder that we received, and they had some issues with the initial bid from Anvil.
We have reviewed it, gone through other documents, talked to other counties, and we believe the protest to be invalid. Submit it for your guys' review.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Chair, I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
First, I just want to thank you, Sergeant and Dexter, for all your work on this. I know it's been a long project. But as far as state recognized disasters as a result of a fire, Sergeant, how many have you worked since you've been working at the Office of Emergency Services?
I've been in the office for the last 10 years. I couldn't give you a number. There's quite a amount on my docket. As you see on the consent agenda, there was quite a few before you this morning. But every disaster is different. I reviewed some of the comments that were submitted to you guys, and each incident is on its own merits. It's a challenge for the sheriff's office to make the justification for every incident, and we do make that attempt for every opportunity we can. One comment was to the Mission Fire. The only funding that we received during the Mission Fire was the Federal Fire Management Assistance Grant, which only covers select costs. And when we deal with private property debris removal, it's a process. We have to go to the state and request that specific service and have it done. We did receive it during Creek Fire for that incident. So there are some parcels, again, when you get that program, there are certain qualifications you have to meet. One of them is the building has to be 120 square feet minimum. So if you don't meet that, you don't get that option to be included in that program. Creek Fire, we did receive that service, but it is in a different form now. The state was running that program during Creek Fire. Now, most of these services, most of these general day-to-day tasks have been shifted to the county staff. So now we are responsible for doing much of this. That's why the board never saw any contracts in Creek Fire, and now you are, because the state made that change.
Okay, I appreciate the thorough explanation. As far as our county match, are we allowed to use staff time as part of that match, or does it have to be a cash match?
So we do capture as much staff time as we can. Most of my regular time, Deputy Director Marr's regular time, is non-eligible cost. We do have to show it to the state to say we are doing what we can with regular hours, but some overtime is an eligible expense. We do submit that forward, so we, in an attempt to lower that match that the county has to put out.
Thank you. And I've been seeing a lot of these, those marked trees coming down. It's part of the hazardous tree removal program. So thank you for your assistance there as well. Appreciate your efforts. No more questions, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? I'll take it out to the public. Any comment from the public? Hearing none. Anyone online?
No
Back
comments
to the
on
board.
Move to approve.
Motion made. Let's vote.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Wilma,
Yes.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Item 6I.
6I, Behavioral Health Services Department, presentation, direction, and discussion on the opioid epidemic, in the California and Madera counties, including the recommended priorities of opioid settlement funds.
Good morning, Connie Peraza, Director of Behavioral Health here in Madera County. Chairman Rogers, members of the board, thank you so much for taking time on this very important issue. I have my co-presenter. I'm not doing this alone.
Simon Paul, Public Health Officer. I'm going to be going over some of the data behind the priorities.
And I have Maria Barragan, who's our manager of prevention, public competence and MHSA. She'll help me with the PowerPoint. We're going to be very precise and short and brief to the point. So before we start the presentation, we just got notice that we wanted you to hear the client's voice. I think they got terrified presenting in front of such an amazing group. But I will share a little bit later on one of the clients that did call me yesterday, so you can hear the voice of the client. But just wanted to preface with this opioid funding allocation that we got from Madera County. As you'll see in the PowerPoint, we do have an initial amount of money that we can use for planning. I will have either our CAO and our deputy CAO if there's when the other rounds will come. But just to preface, this was a short-term planning process that we did, about 4 meetings. We gathered a few folks, some of the department heads, some of the peers joined me in doing some preliminary brainstorming and planning as we are arriving at these 4 categories that we'll present here today. But I want to just share with you that being here in Madera County is definitely a county that collaborates, is definitely a county that is vested in coordination, and definitely look at potential consolidation of the work we do so that we're more efficient in providing services to the county. Each of us departments do amazing work, public health, social services, our sheriff, everybody does great work doing prevention, early intervention, homeless outreach efforts, et cetera. And then we also have our amazing network of providers. So we are going to present to you a comprehensive strategy. We'll present you how it impacts human beings, the 4 categories, and then some next steps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Paul.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to go over some of the data behind what led to some of these priorities. Great. So this is the first slide. And what I'm starting out with is deaths from opiate overdoses. When you look at the slide, the first thing you look for is where's Madera? And actually, if you look, we're not doing too badly compared with the rest of California. There's probably only about 10 or 15 counties that have a lower rate than we do. What this graph does not show, however, is changes in the number of overdose deaths over the last several years. For California as a whole, the increase has been huge, a 2 to 3-fold increase. 4 or 5 years ago, the number of overdose deaths in California was about similar to the motor vehicle accident death number. If you just want something to compare it to, about 3,000 or 4,000 deaths a year. It went up to 7,000. Now it's close to 10,000 overdose deaths per year. So it's getting to be 2 or 3 times as high as what you see from motor vehicle deaths. In Madera County, it's also increased significantly. It used to be about 6 deaths a year, and it went up to 18 in 2021. This lists the 2022 data as 11, but that's preliminary, and I suspect it's going to go up higher as they reclassify and more correctly count deaths due to overdoses. The numbers have gone up a ton in the last couple of years, which is extremely concerning. About 50 to 70%, depending where you look, of the deaths are related to fentanyl now of overdoses. The other thing that's kind of striking about this graph when you look at it is the highestly impacted counties are up in the rural north parts of the county. We always think of overdose deaths and that drug use being a problem connected with metro areas like San Francisco and Los Angeles. But actually, if you look at this map, some of those highly impacted areas are very different areas than that. And there's reasons for that, but I think the important point there is other counties have to be very aware that this is not just a problem of metropolitan large areas. It really impacts everywhere. And you can see that this slide. This is from the last 5 or 6 months of EMS calls in Madera County for overdoses. And as you can see, it's pretty obvious where there's a road, there are overdoses. So it's up in the foothills, it's in Chowchilla, it's in Madera, it's very widespread. We see on average 8 or 9 overdose calls per week. So it's 1 or 2 overdose calls per week to EMS. So as far as overdose deaths, what can we do to impact on that? And what's interesting is in the past, overdose deaths were very strongly connected with people who had heavy substance use, complicated substance use patterns, who are at high risk for overdose. And that still is true for some people, but there's a whole other group of people who are extremely high risk for overdose deaths that you might not sort of realize at first. For example, people who've completed substance use treatment who are now clean from drugs are actually at very high risk if they relapse of overdosing and dying because they no longer have tolerance to drugs. People who may have become clean in prison when they are released are very high risk for overdosing. Perhaps most troubling is people who've never used drugs at all who want to try something like ecstasy or whatever else, may end up taking something that's laced with fentanyl, they have no tolerance and they can overdose. So none of those people are using drugs before they overdosed and died, and none of them would be candidates for like substance use treatment because they're not using substance use until it's happened. So one important priority that we'll be talking about later is trying to get Narcan out to the community. So the first responders now have it, schools have it, people like parks department staff should have it, family members should have it, grandparents want it for when their grandkids are around. Because if somebody overdoses, the only thing that will save them is reversing that, and that has to be done in minutes, often faster than EMS takes to arrive. So we have a big effort working on that. And partly we use these maps to target where to distribute naloxone for those efforts. So that's a very important piece. But clearly that's not the whole part of a strategy, right? We cannot just wait for people to overdose and resuscitate them as a drug treatment strategy. The other big part is substance use disorder. And these are people who, like I mentioned, as opposed to one-off use may end up overdosing. These are people who are known to have substance use problems. And substance use is incredibly widespread. This talks about opiate substance use, but if you add in things like alcohol, pretty much any large workplace has some or many employees who are dealing with substance use issues. They may be well compensated, they may be managing well at work. This is something that really affects huge numbers of people in the community. It's estimated for opiate use disorder, it's about 1% of the population, so that's about 1,500 people in Madera. The big change in substance use is the possibility of treatment using medications, and this has really revolutionized things in the last several years. And I think the best example of that is the bridge program at the emergency rooms now in Fresno. Madera Community Hospital used to participate. If somebody shows up in the emergency room having overdosed in severe withdrawal, feeling horrible, they can start them on buprenorphine. The bridge program will connect them with an outpatient treatment center. Because now you have somebody who is in withdrawal, horribly sick in the emergency room, who can leave no longer in withdrawal, without cravings. If they do use, they tend not to get high and most likely don't overdose. They're actually able to go back to work and continue with their lives and get into outpatient treatment. And if you compare that plan to the older plan, which was you would leave the emergency room still in withdrawal with a phone number to call to get on a wait list for an inpatient drug treatment program, it would take a long time to get into. Those programs can be incredibly important in turning people's lives around. That means a month of where you may still be using and might overdose, and 6 months perhaps in an inpatient program, which means you no longer have your job, you are no longer supporting your family. If needed, those programs are critically important. Medication-assisted treatment is really revolutionary in changing what can be done with people who sort of fall into this trap. Until recently, there was no availability of that treatment in Madera County. Now there is, and we're starting to see increased prescriptions. But you can imagine if somebody has to go to a Fresno emergency room and now they have to go to a Fresno provider, that's really an extra burden. And so one of our other priorities is to be able to get as many people into medicated assisted treatment as possible, people who don't know how to link themselves to care, to get these people into treatment. And then the third priority, like I said before, obviously our whole strategy is not to wait till people have problems and then try and reverse them. Prevention is huge. Prevention and behavioral modification is incredibly challenging. There's a lot of interest in this area from different parties. For example, adverse child experiences is a huge push from the state surgeon general that's moving into the schools. If you have a child that's growing up in an environment where there's drug use around, where there's people in and out of incarceration, it's incredibly high risk for that person to end up with substance use problems, whether it's alcohol, whether it's opiates, and dealing with the stresses in their lives. So there's big programs working with adverse childhood experiences. There's behavioral modification programs that are rolled out in the schools. So there's a lot of interest in those areas as well. That's though challenging, obviously a critical and hopeful part of the priorities for this. And through all of this, I was just talking about the impact on the person who's actually using substances. But clearly there's huge impact as well. It can be incredibly damaging to families. It can affect their workplaces. It affects the community. So all of this sort of circles out and has huge impact within the community. At this point, rather than me talking about it, we were going to have a client or a client story, which kind of reflects sort of more personal level, how this really can impact somebody and how these resources can help turn somebody around who's, like I said, fallen into this sort of miasma of substance use.
Do you want to hold questions at the end, or did you have questions for Dr. Paul?
We can
Right at the end?
hold the questions.
Yes.
You can always-
So this is why all of us, I think, come to work every day, is to really help the clients and the families. Like I said, it has major impacts. You know, they lose their jobs, they have a crisis of domestic violence, they could be homeless. There's many impacts that they have in their life. And then personally, they inherit a lot of health problems. So that's why we have to have a comprehensive approach in how we serve our substance use disorder clients. But in this particular example, the clients that were going to be here, but one of them that called me yesterday, she was very apologetic, but she was just, like I said, I'm sorry. She said it was too much probably for her, but she was saying that if it wouldn't have been for the medically assisted treatment program that we have here locally, Aegis Pinnacle Incorporated, she would still be on the streets. She would still be homeless, of course, no food. She had no clothing available to her. But she says now she's applying to be an IHHS worker. She's contemplating setting other goals for herself. But she was just very thankful and honored to have been asked to speak today, but we do respect her decision of not being here. Some of these folks do protect their privacy and their confidentiality and do feel hesitant sometimes to speak in public, but we did have a couple great success stories that we could have shared here with you. So as you can see, the impacts of addiction, not just opiate addiction, but alcoholism, as Dr. Paul was mentioning, is devastating, and it affects their entire life. What I want to just do, I know you have the PowerPoint, so just very, very high level. The opioid settlement funds is a great opportunity for Madera County for us to work collaboratively and to put together a great plan on how to spend these funds. We learned that there are other settlements that will be announced. Maybe they're already on their way so that we can have an opportunity to plan. The funding does ask for 50% of the funding or no less than 50% to be spent on real specific categories, which we can show you. So definitely, there's great things we can do with this funding. We can spend it in prevention or intervention. We can spend it in building substance abuse or expanding capacity, be it outpatient with medically assisted treatment and or other modalities that we have. We can spend it in working with the schools. We can spend it in innovative proposals that we can listen to from the community. But when we had the meetings with our small group, we identified 4 categories that we want to bring forward to you so that we can look at the allocations. We can also use it for infrastructure, for other efforts that are coming through the state through CalAIM, and other things that we need in the county. So with the initial planning that we were asked to work on was the initial amount was 400,000 to see what are some things or some gaps or some areas that we can consider present to you for consideration for us to plan towards. And the number one, and you heard it through the, no, Sarah Boss is our Director of Public Health, through the CHA, we've heard it through MHSA planning, we've heard it through many efforts. Substance abuse continues to be, if not the top, one of the top 3, top 4 priorities that the county needs to attend to. So as you know, we've been working, we'll be working on constructing our own sobering center, I hope soon, and then our CSU, which will help us also with these areas. But the number 1 priority is to increase substance abuse capacity. Number 2 is to sustain our COPE initiative. I apologize, I type on this COPE, which is a community prevention effort that Paul was mentioned earlier, to not only set up point distribution centers for the distribution of the Narcan nasal spray to prevent or stop overdoses of opiates, but also to set up really clear alert systems for the community to know where the opiate overdose is happening, along with other substance abuse issues. The third one is to, again, provide and coordinate prevention services for youth and families. And then the fourth one, provide case management services for jail and high-risk populations. So again, as it was mentioned, substance abuse expansion or capacity can include the services that I'm mentioning in this slide, including medically assisted treatment and all the different options that we have for our clients. We want to propose definitely that there is a continuum of care as we have in the county right now with our contract providers. We do have a continuum of care, but we do have to enhance and increase it so that folks can not only attain recovery, but sustain recovery. And we do propose that it's a very robust with evidence-based programming. So we can show outcomes, including drug testing, aftercare programming, et cetera. The second one is to sustain our COPE initiative, which is a community opiate prevention effort. We started this a couple of years ago. We want to sustain it. It is ending the end of this year. And it was the HMA consultants who helped us to launch the planning process. We were one of the first counties who implemented this particular initiative. We want to have it sustained so we can coordinate the different efforts in the county with the different departments to ensure that we have enough Narcan to be distributed. They have done trainings. We're talking on the spot. They showed up at BHS. We have clients that were interested in learning about how to do the nasal spray administration, and they've attended town halls, et cetera. And then definitely, we want to make sure that we have a website at the county website or in all our websites to promote this initiative. The other one is to provide prevention services. The schools are a major partner for us, but also the different departments. I know that social services have prevention plan. We have a prevention plan. Public health is prevention services. We want to have an opportunity, and all my partners definitely will work together. We want to use this as an opportunity to coordinate the services to really educate the community about the dangers and risks, provide information, maybe have a kiosk of information that can be in the different schools for easy access up to this information. And also definitely we will have treatment resources and or any other information that the parents need in English and Spanish and or other languages that they may need. And then the last category of funding we were looking at was to have case management services that can help us link the high-risk population that come to the jail. I know that we have a great partnership right now with Chris Rodriguez, but we need to enhance it with case management to ensure that the clients, when they're in the jail 30 days before discharge, or if we could do it sooner, that we can link them and connect them to not only behavioral health services for training and the whole continuum we offer, but also to other community resources. It could be medical, it could be, psychiatric, it could be substance abuse, it could be employment. So all the many resources that these folks have so they can become productive citizens in the community. The warm handouts are very critical for us. And also, again, the coordination between departments and ensure that we are well coordinated. So the next steps that we are proposing to you is for your consideration of these 4 categories for our group, possibly a larger group, to convene and develop a plan with a budget and timelines that we can bring back to you for your review and approval of this funding. I know that there are some expectations at the state level. They haven't been pressing us for any reports or anything like that. But I think once we do our plan and include other stakeholders how to spend this initial funding allocation, it will be something we can work on. So if you have any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
We're dueling, after you, I insist. As far as the funding, how long are we expected the opioid funding to be available to the county? Is it multi-year?
No, it's
I don't have a specific time frame, but it runs pretty far out there. It's not 1 to 3 years.
Okay. Appreciate that.
And
Thank you.
there's more settlements.
And more settlements to come, right? Okay, I thought so.
Well, the state meetings, I'm hearing at least 1 or 2 more. That's what I'm hearing, but I don't have the actual information.
Okay, so but the expectation would be that we do have a somewhat sustainable source of funding for the short term, at least.
Correct.
Short to medium. And as far as the priorities go, I mean, it would seem, based on some of the reports you've given in the past, that we are working on all these priorities right now. And so what we're hoping is that this funding will be able to enhance those efforts and improve upon what we're already doing, right?
Well, excuse me. The difference with this is this particular funding is really targeting opioid, along with co-occurring disorders of mental health and other substances. Excuse me. Our current capacity that we have in the county, our counselors are some youth counselors who are certified. They do everything. They do screening, assessment, case management. They do the whole thing. So in order for us to attend to this demand, as well as our medically assisted treatment partner who is now here locally part-time, we hope that we can support in one way or another so they can be here full-time and hopefully invite the others. But we need to build the capacity for this particular demand that continues to increase as we look at the data. And I know Dr. Paul, if you want to make any comments.
Well, you mentioned it has been the COPE program, which I think has been really successful, and that will lose funding when the consultants go away. It's been able to work closely with the sheriff's department, with CBOs, with the schools. All of our schools have Narcan, which is really through that organization's efforts. And the state just passed law this year that all schools need to have Narcan, and our schools were already on board with all of that. So none of them had to actually even do anything because they were prepared. Similarly, they worked with the sheriffs doing outreach to the homeless. They worked with CBO groups working with the unhoused up in the mountain community. So it's been a very effective community-wide organization. And like I said, the support for that goes away. So it is something we're already doing. It needs to continue. They look to reach saturation where enough Narcan has been distributed to sort of, have defibrillators in all the buildings kind of equivalent. It hasn't reached that point and that funding is go away. So we don't want to lose that effort because it's been successful. And I think the other piece that is sort of unique is sort of specific case management to connect people to treatment, right? Like when we go out in a mobile van, we meet somebody or even first responder meets somebody who needs to get it connected to treatment. It's so easy for that to fall apart. You can give them a phone number or a place to go. But if you can actually have a person who will meet with them face to face a few times and get them to that appointment, that's night and day as far as getting people. We really want to and those are the people who need the treatment the most and be the ones who end up not getting it. be able to make that link. Really, it's a novel opportunity like that.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that intervention and that opportunity. I think it's important that, we capitalize on that. And we've been having a lot of conversations actually with CAPMC about how we can really engage the community in that as well. And so I'm optimistic that we can continue to build upon our capacities, not just within, the county behavioral health, but also within the community. I think it's very important. Thank you.
So if I may add, Supervisor McCauley, so the other piece to this one that will be enhanced is families. So we work with the schools. We not only work with the youth or the kids, but we want to work with the parents, the families in their own language, in their own locations. This case management component that is very critical, and actually the state is expecting us to move forward very soon, is that warm handoff, as Dr. Paul was saying. So you and I can speak today and then you go your way, my way, but it's literally a warm handoff. And we're trying to make that human connection person to person and make sure that people, when they leave the jail or they leave any location, that we don't drop them, that is not dropped. So we don't have enough bodies, but we will have enough. Again, as we develop the plan more specifically for you to review, we definitely can address those components.
Chairman Rogers.
Yes.
To answer Supervisor McCauley's question, the settlements run between 15 and 20 years in length. It depends on each individual lawsuit settlement. Some even run 18. I don't know where they came up with 18, but had to do with how they're going to distribute the money over time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yeah, and I do have some issues with this, but some of the issues that I have are related to law enforcement and the criminal justice system. I do see our DA, Sally Moreno, behind. So I would be curious, are you planning on speaking about this topic? I would like to reserve some comments and.
Let's have her speak and then we'll let you speak right after. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Sally Moreno, your district attorney. I'd like to start by saying that I totally appreciate everything that behavioral health is doing and then the direction they're headed in. My concern and the reason that I'm here today is it feels like this opioid issue is in no small part a result of things that have changed in the criminal justice system. And I'm referring specifically to Prop 47. And what that did was removed any criminal justice consequences. And, I am a person who wants to help, loves to help. I know that a person who's rehabilitated in the criminal justice system saves us a ton of money and becomes a productive member of our society. And those are great outcomes. My concern is that this funding, there's no other shoe. We're offering a hand. We want to help. We have counseling opportunities. And yet what we're doing is we're diverting people from the criminal justice system. And they're avoiding those challenging consequences that happen when you have addiction issues. And I would like to see a program, these funds are tagged for specific things. And I spoke briefly with our behavioral health director, again, for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect. And I don't see really a where. So I end up being just sort of a complainer. But there isn't a way to use these funds that we have found where we can impose actual consequences. I'm a mother of 4, and I have told my children, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables. If there's not a consequence, they're not eating their vegetables. When I say eat your vegetables or you don't get dessert, then we make progress. And that's how some people are. And I'm sure this opioid crisis, some people will respond better if there are negative consequences when their behavior doesn't conform. What we do is we divert people from criminal justice. We say, hey, do you want to go to jail or do you want to go to counseling? And they say, well, I'd rather go to counseling. And then they get to counseling and they say, I don't really like counseling. And we say, oh, okay, maybe next time. And I get it that they're helping some people, but there is that recalcitrant fraction of people who will not respond absent significant negative consequences. And that's what I see as missing. And I've spoken extensively with our sheriff, and he asked me to relay that he and I are on the same page about this. We are interested in solving the problem. We are interested in getting it fixed. And these are good tools, but we have other tools that we necessarily need to apply.
3 more. Go ahead,
Yeah, so
Supervisor.
as far as the funding mechanism, I'm not quite sure as far as what can be applied to, you know, for lack of a better term, a carrot or a stick. I've given Narcan almost half a dozen times in the last 12 months, which is more than I've ever given ever in my law enforcement career. And 4 out of those 5 survived. So I understand on the street level of the opioid epidemic. But just like you said, Prop 47 is one of those things. Hey, drugs used to be a felony. Do you want to be stuck with a felony? Do you want to go to treatment? A lot of times they'd say they go to treatment. Well, if they didn't complete the treatment requirements, guess what? There was still a felony waiting for them. So those diversion things absolutely need to be up, or those things need to be a part of that diversion program. And look, it's a lot of good things you're talking about. I think there's probably some woke boilerplate language in here that I don't necessarily agree with. When it talks about, addiction, relapsing, disease process, all socioeconomic classes, cultural groups, ages, communities, and families. Then it goes into, it addresses the needs of communities of color and vulnerable populations. Well, this is Madera. Madera is a community of color and by high percentage. So a lot of that boilerplate language, but going back to the issue at hand, opioid in general, drugs in general, complete open borders in conjunction with California's absolutely failed drug laws is contributing to this issue. And until we address those issues, a lot of this is just fluff, in my opinion. And these are dollars that are coming down and dollars that are going to go out for a million things that people have access to. And whether or not it moves the needle, I don't know. Distributing more Narcan, okay, some people are going to have another crack at it because that's what Narcan is. It's not a final solution.
Right.
They get another opportunity to make a choice in life.
Live another day. Right?
So for me, a comprehensive plan more actively involves not only the district attorney, but the sheriff's office as well. They're the ones who are the front line on this. So that would be my suggestion, moving something more comprehensive in that direction.
Well, and let me clarify that we were both invited into the conversation repeatedly by behavioral health. So it was not an
Right.
issue. It's just that the priorities and the things that they're allowed to spend this money on don't include the kinds of consequences that the sheriff and I believe would actually.
Right. We spent a ton of money on addiction and programs and for addiction and not to demean that. That's the necessary thing. And I know people been with men specifically who have their lives were changed by that, and that is really a big thing when their lives can be retrieved from addiction and move on to talk to other people. In fact, you'd be surprised some of the leaders in our community who have been through that, who are really making a huge difference in Madera County right now. So that's a huge thing. So I don't mean to demean that at all when I say this, but I think Jordan hit it on the head when he said that, and Sally as well, with Prop 47. And then you've got the impossible task of trying to make a dent in a problem with open borders and the cartels bringing in fentanyl like it was candy on Halloween. And this problem, that's an impossible thing to fix unless you fix that border problem and the situations that are going on there. And of course, you're not responsible for that in these funds, and it's not going to happen with these funds. But I say this to, and I think my colleague says it, to emphasize when we're in the presence of those who are making these policies and can make these policies, to tell them, look, you're giving us something that addresses the symptom and not the problem. And we would rather deal with the problem and get rid of the symptoms. And that is a fact. One of the things that really ignites my heart in this is that my wife's a school board member, and she sits on that board, and more than ever in her tenure of 14 years on that school board, she is experiencing a higher number of expulsions due to drug use than ever before. It's a huge number. It's gone up 2,000%. 2,000%. That's really, really scary to me for those kids. And, you know, I think youth outreach would be a very important component of, and sometimes I think we get a pot of money like this, a little bit of money, and we spread it out so wide that we're not making a big difference. We're making little differences in those other areas, but how can we focus this money and make a big difference in our schools, make a big difference for those kids? Another area that I thought of that is every day and it's made a big difference for me as a supervisor, because I'm a first line call for some of these problems. There's a lot of people that'll call me right away. You got to do something about this. And one of the problems that I was getting regular calls on was the homeless issue, until we turned it over to the sheriff's department. And they have done very, very well in interdiction and dealing with that circumstance. I got to say, a huge difference in the volume of calls that I've got on that. And I be sure and pass that on to the sheriff for me. Thank you for that. Very, very important. But that's a frontline issue. These are, you talk about the, like the population that you said were most affected, or I can't remember the term. Yeah, the target population. This would be a target population, the homeless. Definitely, I've been directly involved with some of these people, and it's scary. I don't know how the sheriff's department does it, but I mean, a lot of them are just out of their minds with these drugs. And how you deal with that, I don't know. But I'd like to see more law enforcement involvement in these funds somehow. And again, talking to these kids, I know we used to have a DARE program. We used to have the Scared Straight. I think some of those kids need Scared Straight. They need to go to the prison and see, or go to the morgue and see somebody who's died from fentanyl, see the effects of it, because something's got to wake them up. I mean, we're not talking about high schoolers in Churchill Elementary. We're talking about little kids. Wow. Just frightening. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Connie, this is a significant amount of funding for potentially a significant amount of time. So I think it's important that we review the parameters of what we can and cannot use the funding for. I know that back last year when I attended the NACO conference, the opioid funding was a big topic at the conference. And so there's other counties nationwide that are utilizing this funding for an array of things, for treatment, prevention, all that. So I think it's important to look at what other counties are doing and look at the best practices. There's not really a cost breakdown for each of these priorities, so it'd be helpful to see how the funding will be used. I know that's in the future. So I think it's because it's a long-term funding potentially, I think we really need to dissect it and take our time to put this plan together, not just rush to throw it to one program or one thing, whatnot. So I'm glad to see that you're working with these stakeholders. Hope to see that the sheriff and the district attorney join to provide some well. So I had some other questions on the PowerPoint, but at this point, I don't think that we need to address them. I did want to mention though, for some of these priorities, how much of these can go into the CalAIM funding?
Into the what?
The CalAIM funding for them. How much can we utilize that funding?
We have, the CALIM comes in rounds by the state, and they send the criteria for each of those rounds of funding. So this is totally separate. But I just, yeah, so CALIM is
But
different.
they could fit into some of these categories as well.
Actually, I'm looking at Mental Health Services Act, probably more than CALIM.
Okay.
Yep.
Those are my comments.
Just Chair, quick
Yeah,
comment.
yeah.
So I want to run back to one of the comments that Sally, the DA, made in regards to kids not following the rules, right? And you got to have consequences. But I mean, what I would say is that the second you're not looking, those kids are going to throw the food under the table. And so they're going to find a way. Those folks are always going to find a way to break the rules. And so I think what we're talking about, what Connie's presented to us, is an opportunity to do better by those folks where there is an opportunity to make a difference, where we have that opportunity for a warm handoff. So that way we can get someone who just overdosed, like my brother did 4 weeks ago, so, and give him that warm handoff. So he has an opportunity, right? So, important. And I want to say thank you for bringing it forward.
Wow, that's poignant, Bobby. Thank you for sharing that. Our
People
hearts
are, I think,
with
thank you, Supervisor Bacali, but people are dying. They're not getting connected to services. In fact, I'm looking forward to working with our sheriff on the homeless outreach, and I work very closely with Maddie, who's here, and Mr. Jesse Chavez. That warm handoff, working with our homeless population, is a focus. It is a focus of these funds as well. I'm looking forward. The DARE program, as you know, did not work. Now it's called Keeping It Real. And that is a prevention program, early intervention program, that we can definitely look at the priority 3. So basically, the goal was to come with some priority areas. We have work to do a plan, budget, involve more stakeholders, and then we bring back to you. But yeah, it's, I'm very sorry, Supervisor McCauley, but this is a very difficult issue we're facing.
Really reaches home when you put a name to it, doesn't it?
I think the only thing I'd add, we didn't mention it. We focused in on the piece we were focused on, but there are sort of pillars that have to be in place for any of this. Law enforcement is one of them. Schools is one of them. Like, schools weren't functioning for a year. Maybe that's why,
Right.
cases are through the roof there. Hospitals have to work, and there have to be treatment centers. So these sort of major pieces are kind of assumed to exist. How well they're able to function, like when you mentioned the laws that have been passed, is a separate issue, but you sort of have to have all that in place. And this is really how can you use the funds in a focused way to kind of maximize the access to what's available from those kind of pillars, hospitals, law enforcement. The director of behavior, the medical director, she was very clear in her experience of how much of a difference law enforcement make in return lives around. So they're very aware of that. I'm sure at the stakeholder meetings, she brought that up repeatedly. And again, it's just a question of what exists with those kind of pillars in the community. How can we get the most benefit from those funds kind of filling the gaps into, like I said, I didn't mention it.
It's a we, it's not a behavioral health. It's a together. We don't ever see ourselves. I don't ever see myself as a department by itself. I'm here with Dr. Paul. I have Sarah Boss, everybody, Deborah, everybody. We can't do it alone. It has to be a comprehensive, together, coordinated effort. So I'm all for it.
Right. We agree. Any other comments? I'm going to take it out to the public on comments.
Hello, I just wanted to make a comment. I agree with the district attorney, and I think that the sheriff's office and the district attorney should be involved. I also think that priorities number 2 and 3 should have less emphasis and should involve the district attorney and sheriff's office to show what kind of consequences they can, quote unquote, move the needle with. And I also agree with Supervisor Warmoff, and it gives, my opinion is that it gives the drug addict another chance, but another chance to fail as well. So granted that it's a complicated conversation. As we know, I'm a student that went through the DARE program, and I saw did not work when I got to high school. All the forward activists that wanted us to be involved in DARE type activities really retracted back all of the teachers, all of the faculty and staff that were associated with it. So looking back on it, looks like a failed program. Doesn't feel like anybody was less active to do drugs in a party setting, in a social setting. So granted that, I think that funds should be used to create a conversation where we actually talk about this. As you heard your colleague, he had a sibling that dealt with these issues. It's a very hard familial topic. It's a very hard societal topic. It's a very hard community topic that we don't like addressing. We like saying, hey, there's a solution out there, but there is not a clear confrontational solution. We like to give it to the law enforcement agencies to say, hey, you know, you guys are the first line responders, deal with this. You have funding opportunities. You can give these people Narcan. But I think a new conversation needs to be had, because so far it's the same thing over and over again. You have a funding opportunity. You take those funds, you try to make a meaningful result from it. But in 2 decades, no county, local municipality has been able to make a meaningful change to the point where we've cited them as an example and tried to replicate.
Right.
If there was that type of example, I think we would all be looking towards that and be looking for marginal results. As you just said, 2,000% increase. If we were talking about data and metrics that were like, hey, we lost 7%, we know that those efforts would be bringing in results where we knew we could replicate those strategies. I think that as primary or the first speaker had said, these funds go away. And so from a business aspect, money lost doesn't help anybody. So it should be acquired and it should be used in a thoughtful way.
Can you give us your name, please, for the record?
My name is Govind.
Thank you for your comments. Sharp young man, and appreciate you giving us your perspective, life experience as well. That's so important. I have a nephew that was involved in drugs, and he turned his life around as a result of somebody talking to him. He's now helping others. That's his life's pursuit. So I think it's a wonderful thing.
If I can make just one little thing,
Sure.
Went to Skid Row to do a business. I had a smoke shop in Fresno, and it took me to the wholesale alley there for the first time, where I got exposed to Skid Row. And that was in 2015. The problem there has gotten exponentially worse. What you're saying is that nobody wants to have a conversation with them is a huge deal. The social workers in that area who have seen the funding skyrocket to get them help have only seen the problem get worse. So I just like to bring that up, as that's a real issue that we face in the state. People want to help, but they're not able to do that in a meaningful way. I've gone back year after year and it's thought, hey, I gave, had some conversations, gave some help out. Didn't look like it helped. Year after year, looks like the problem gets worse. So just from a concerned citizen, you know what few things you can do to help, but when you do them and you don't see the problem getting any smaller, you start to wonder.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Very sorry for what you're going through.
Yes. Now, we have a comment online. Javier Marino.
Thank you. So good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Let me just say, please excuse my inability to attend in person. So my name is Javier Moreno. I'm the Director of Government Relations for Aegis Treatment Centers. We are one of California's largest networks of medication-assisted treatment programs. We operate 46 treatment programs throughout the state with 1 satellite location in Madera. I just want to publicly give my support to the proposal just made by the Behavioral Health Department and also acknowledge all the great comments that were just made by all. One thing we know is that treatment works in reducing the costs associated with substance use disorder. And by improving access to evidence-based treatment services such as medication-assisted treatment for opioid use disorder, it's been associated with thousands of dollars in community savings in the lifetime cost per person. I also want to state that, studies show that for every dollar invested in addiction treatment services, it reduces drug-related crime, theft, and criminal justice costs by $4 to $7. And then when you factor in healthcare costs, that return on investment is closer to $30 to $60 in saving per dollar spent. So again, the return on investment in treatment services pays dividend 10 times. So with that said, I just want to applaud the department for the proposal to prioritize the opioid settlement dollars to increase treatment capacity, community prevention services, and to provide expanded services to the criminal justice involved populations. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, go ahead.
Board, I would just ask when comments are done and ready to give staff some level of direction, it would be most useful if if you agree on the 4 priorities that have been presented so that staff can come back with a plan that utilizes maybe not just the opioid money, but other money that's available. Because I think just speaking for myself, part of the selections that came to mind in solving the problem were constrained by the $400,000 roughly per year, rather than thinking directly about what the problem is and what we need to do as a county to address it. So just a suggestion for when the board gets ready to provide direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Come ahead.
Jesse Chavez with the Madera Rescue Mission. Just wanted to support Connie. I like what she said, it's not a me, but it's a we. We work with behavioral health. We work with CAPMC. We work with probation department, sheriff's department, the police department. And one of the things, if one of our guests or our disciples are getting out of hand, we have the phone number to their probation officer. And we'll let them know, hey, if you keep going down this route, we're going to call them. And we have called them and we have a meeting and they've totally changed around. So, we are working with all the agencies and I totally support what Connie's doing. And like I said, we are working with the other agencies as well. Okay.
Thank you for what you do. And we appreciate you.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No,
We do it 24/7.
Yeah.
So we know what's going on. And I'll pray for your brother.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Jeff.
Jeff. Okay.
Thank you.
See you in April.
And Chair, if I may, real
Yeah,
quick,
go
I
ahead.
just want to say, so my brother has been throwing his food under the table, so to speak, since he was, 12 years old, right? So it's been an ongoing issue. But, he has entered treatment and treatment did work for him, and I think that success is measured on an individual basis. So we can't go out to Skid Row and say that, the population out here is growing, so what we're doing is not working. Again, I think we have to look at it as an individual success, right? So when someone gets off the streets, that's a success. What we did worked. And for my brother, again, treatment worked for him. He was clean for a year. It was a man I had never seen before. And unfortunately, he fell back in. I hope he makes the decision to get clean again because I miss that person. So I just wanted to make that statement. But thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
I know we've been talking about it a long time. I just want to add a little bit more. We all want to see the same results. Just a matter of how we get there, right? And we can only do so much on a local level. And a lot of things that I was talking about were, frustrations on a global level, or at least the United States level, of how did we actually get to this point? But a lot of people, even a lot of people in this room know that most people do not accept treatment until they are at rock bottom. And that's generally the only time people will truly seek treatment. And so although, yes, success is measured on individuals, coming up and rising up, still need to look at it from a mass data perspective and make sure that this isn't just another bureaucracy with funding that is coming and making sure that all these things are available. I really want to move the needle, as does everybody else. So when I come at things with my concerns, or when I address things with my concerns, it's all from the standpoint of, I want to make sure that we're being as effective as possible with these dollars and not just throwing a lot of fluff out there, making sure that things are available. And I have a lot of respect for you and the work that you've done. I really, really do. So I don't want to minimize that in any way, shape, or form. But this is a serious topic. It's a serious topic for our community. And it's something that requires diligent review and making sure that we are spending these dollars in the most effective way possible. And from my experience, that effectiveness comes from that carrot or the stick mentality. So far in this, I see a lot of just carrots.
And if I may just, the state is going to expect outcomes and results, or they will, the money could be withheld. So I want to assure you that when we develop the plan with real specific outcomes, we will have to have that measurable and reportable to them. So that I'm doing that for our department as well, and then working with my partners as well. Our system, I'm reviewing my system as well to have more evidence-based drug testing, many different things that we're going to be adding there that we haven't had. So, but in the overall picture, we are going to be expected to show results.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, what I was looking for along the lines of, or what I'd like to see is a little more expanded view of the prevention side, where we're, how are we going to the schools, maybe a nexus with the sheriff's department on that, because I know they have a great rapport with the schools and a great in with the kids in those programs. I know the resource officers are really, really powerful in those schools. That I've seen that through the years. The kids just love them. They respect them. They learn a respect for law enforcement through that. So if there was a nexus there, that would really be good. And then also with their interdiction in the homeless area, just a nexus there as well. That's just mine. And I like Letty's thoughts about best practices. Let's look at what others are doing. It doesn't hurt us to steal something that's great. So if we can find something that really, really works, like the young man said, we'd all be copying it for sure. Absolutely.
Prevention and treatment. And I just want to share one more story, and I'm sorry and I'm done. In junior high, I sat through an assembly where there was a mom and a dad who talked about their 17-year-old son who tried cocaine for the first time, died. And that resonated with me. And obviously different things resonate with different kids, those types of things. But when I got into my early adult years and I was hanging around with kids who were experimenting with drugs, and when those opportunities were available, I remembered and I thought about that. It only takes one time. So you never know what resonates. But for me, that seventh grade assembly where the mom and the dad were talking about the heartbreaking story, getting the call where their 17-year-old son had experimented with cocaine and died. So those are the types of things that need to be out there and pushing. Thank you, guys.
Has similar experience with that. Very, very true.
And I'm done, I swear.
Chair, if I may, real quick, I'm a little concerned that if we do, and I just want to say that obviously I support our law enforcement, I support the DA, I think they know that, but I am concerned that this is a small funding pool. It is only $400,000 a year, and that while that may grow, I want to make sure, as everybody said, that if we're going to go out and do something with this money, that it's effective. And so I'm concerned that if we spread this out too much, we're not going to be effective anywhere. And so what I'm hopeful, and I don't know if the rest of the board would agree to this, is that when we come back in October, perhaps we see two proposals, one with a law enforcement component and one without, so we can get a good idea of what that looks like and have a better understanding of what we're actually doing here. Is that possible? And I don't know if the board.
I was looking to an integrated plan, but whatever you like us to do.
My thoughts were integrating, doing the same circumstances, but integrating them more into the program. That was my thoughts.
Is that okay with you, Supervisor McCollum?
That, if that's the pleasure of the board,
Well,
I am one member.
I
so-
think I understand where you're getting at, but also at the same time, I don't think it needs to necessarily be a money factor either. It can be to a very small degree, but incorporating our homeless,
Yeah.
like as an example, the sheriff's department, homeless outreach. How can they integrate some of these services into what they're already
Right.
doing that maybe doesn't necessarily cost any extra money, I guess?
And I apologize. My assumption is that some of that's already happening through.
And we are, I know Maddie Mendes is here, our homeless coordinator. We are doing a lot of work already. I don't know if you want to comment, Maddie.
Good morning, Chairman and members of Board of Supervisors, Maddie Mendez, Executive Director of CAPMC. We do work with law enforcement. I'm not saying that is a solution or is a different pot of, funding. But we work with Mike Motz at the Sheriff's Department and his team, and they just added an administrative assistant. We're working on a strategic plan. We're working on this, but in this particular case, I think it's an integrated approach, and it's listening to all bodies and coming to a consensus, hopefully that we can bring back to the board and get approval. But both things are necessary. And as executive director and as a resident of Madera County, there's no better law enforcement than we have in our county, and you know that. And we support that. But we also have to serve the client outside of the jail, outside of the justice system. And that's what we're here for. And together, we have to come together to bring hope to those individuals that are out there. On Sunday, a member of our community was released from the hospital. She was dropped off at CAPMC. She used our hoses and relieved herself in our courtyard at CAPMC. She had nowhere to go. I guess she didn't think of going to the mission. It was in midday, so it was probably too early to check in at the mission. But that's what we're coming across within our community. Now, do I send the video to law enforcement and expect them to arrest her? No, I need to go find her. And guess what? She came there because she was a former employee of CAPMC. So it takes us all.
Thank you, Maddie. Connie, I guess my question goes, with your original proposal, was it intended to be an integrated
Yes.
approach?
Yes.
Okay.
So the only thing that is in the funding is 50%, no less than 50% has to be spent in that category, section 1 of the required funds. Then I also need to confirm if the worry of supplantation is not very clear, if we can, how we can fund things that were funded and then we fund them again. So just that detail that I'm waiting for a response, but yeah, less than 50% can need to be spent on that section, and then the rest we're pretty flexible.
And so I guess my request comes back to, I'm hopeful we can see your original unaltered proposal. And then I'm hearing from the board that they would like to see a larger component of law enforcement built into that proposal. So it seems like perhaps there's two different proposals that could be developed. or is that
There
not
aren't
the
any
case?
proposals written up.
Right.
We have not written the plan. These were
I
identified
understand that,
categories.
but we're going through these priorities to help develop a proposal.
We
And
need to
so
develop a plan.
I'm curious to get your proposal on the priorities that you presented. But then again, the board seems to want a larger component of law enforcement. So to me, it seems like based on our priorities that we're giving you today, we could have two different proposals. And so I'm hopeful to see both those proposals.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I promise the thing I'm going to add is if there is a proposal that any of our partners want to incorporate, they literally fit under the 4 categories. I actually looked at all of them. So we would love to go back, reconvene, and actually we had a few more stakeholders. And you're the one that you tell me what to do, but an integrated, coordinated, well written proposal among all of us, I think is going to really strengthen and consolidating some areas what we're all doing. Because I know, each one of us do a lot of great things, and we're trying to embed ourselves into existing partnerships. So why don't create something separate? So I was coming forward with an integrated and just, there isn't a written plan or proposal that we've submitted anywhere.
Right, it's just a
So-
matter of who does what at this point,
And we can bring them in.
and not an integrated plan will mean that everybody's going to be doing something in the program, including law enforcement. So
With,
that's all I'm saying is that law enforcement needs to be a component. Like it was Dr. Paul who said talked about the pillars. Got to have all of the components that are there. And I don't think it's an either or thing. I think it's a matter of who does what.
And for me, it's not even necessarily about having a law enforcement component, but having buy-off from people who all work together on this issue.
Right.
I think it'd be important to not just have you, but Dr. Paul, Sally, and Tyson be able to stand up there and say, hey, we support
Yes.
this program and plan. And I
Yeah,
think
and
that's more
Chief
of what,
Childers as
I
well.
think, and I
Yeah.
think that's more of what we're looking at,
Yeah.
especially Chief Childers. He's dealing with the
Yeah.
after effects of all. So.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
did have
So-
Chief Childers and we did have other, yeah. Yeah.
But that's
That's
the
okay.
direction that I would like, is just more buy-in from the people who already work together to deal with these issues
Right.
Within the 400,000,
within the 400.
within the 400,000. So we will definitely come back.
Thank you so much. Any public comment on this item? Any more public comment? If not, I think we're done. Thank you. Okay, pending legislation. Do we have any?
I did receive an email from Shaw Yoder late yesterday evening regarding AB 505, which the board has already submitted a letter of opposition regarding. However, the gist of the email was to request board members to contact our state senators to continue to voice your opposition, even as amended for AB 505, as it did not resolve the conflicts that the counties have with the proposed legislation.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's it on the pending legislation. So we'll go to supervisor and staff reports. So Supervisor McCauley.
Yes, thank you. Had a town hall last Thursday on workforce development and employer resources. Have another town hall this Thursday on PG&E. The board may know that PG&E has made some significant modifications to their vegetation management plan and are installing some switches that essentially shut your power off if there's any risk of fire. So they're going to come and talk to the community about that. Again, Thursday at 5:30. And I had a great meeting with Forest Service leadership yesterday, actually talking about how we can get some more roads within the Sierra National Forest open. Very confident that we will get there, although it will be a long process. But we're going to start a process to evaluate a significant chunk of road mileage that we may be able to bring back into their system. So that'll be great. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have nothing to report. Supervisor Wilmoff,
Nothing to report.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Not just that, it's been 7 weeks, believe it or not, since I had my baby. I'm sad to leave her, but she's in good hands with her dad right now. But easing back into coming back into the office, and thank everybody that helped in my absence. So feels good to be back, but I miss my baby
Yeah.
already.
Absolutely, absolutely. PAO.
In conjunction with your proclamation for National Suicide Prevention Month, I do believe that we've acquired, with the help of VHS, the necessary lenses to light the outside of the building purple for 1 week, similar to what we did last year in November related to veterans. So
Very
the
good.
building is purple, that's why. And it'll
Very
probably
good.
start towards the end of this week. Originally, they had requested that it start last week, but we did want to jump ahead of the issuance of the proclamation.
There you go.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for doing that. County Council.
Yep, Chair, members of the board, the only thing to report is I'll be attending the County Council Association meeting starting tomorrow. Coming back on Friday, I will be available, but we'll be headed over to Rancho Mirage down by Palm Springs.
Thank you. Clerk of the board.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, we do have some closed session items to complete. Do you want us to do those now, or do you want to take a lunch and come back? I mean, do we anticipate, we don't anticipate a long,
The closed session, it looks like folks would, I don't have a preference. They're short items, but if people need a break, we can take a break.
Let's
or
get her
we can
done.
Get her done. Okay,
let's get her done.
we're ready.
Okay, so we'll come back after. closed session. Okay, we're back from closed session. County Council, anything to report from closed session?
Chairman, there's no reportable action from closed session.
Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned.